Hey guys, what is up? Roshi is here. Today we are looking at Esper Worldpyre, and I guess Aurelian Worldpyre is the better eternal name for it. People don't like it when I call it Esper, but that's just what the colors look like to me. They don't really line up properly to, what they are in Magic, but whatever. I've talked about it too long. Let's just look at the list. Hey guys, what is up? Roshi is here. Today we're taking a look at the Aurelian Worldpyre deck list. So the main goal of this deck is to use transpose to grab Worldpyre from our market, and then we have a lot of really nice bombs we can play with Worldpyre. And the rest of the deck's just kind of getting there and enabling you to continue doing what you want to be doing when you get there. Plays kind of like a tap out control list, and it's pretty fun to play. So let's just dive into some of the choices here. We've got Desert Alchemist, Deadly Ambush, Summon, Plunder. It's going to get, fix your draws. This gives us Deadly to spread around with Grodov's Burden, which is really cool. Plunder is just nice for making sure you get to 4 power. Just keep in mind that while Plunder is great and all, it's really important for our deck to have as much influence as possible. So we're able to fire off big 8 of the Horus or channel the Tempests. Usually it's not a problem to get to 8, but when you're trying to push like 9 or 12 influence, it can be a bit of a struggle. And the plundered card only giving you 1 color of influence, just keep in mind that maybe it's not the best to plunder for power unless you're just desperately trying to get to 4 power or you're like really close. But that said, let's just keep cruising through. Maveloft Huntress, most important thing here, it gives us killer, another way to just plunder early on to make sure we get to 4 power. And Imbue can be nice too. It's not often that it comes up that we have a nice solid minion still in play for us to imbue, but if it does happen, we're happy to do it. Where this really starts to shine is in the late game, and you've got Grodov's Burden in play, and you play Maveloft and maybe kill something, and then pass killer to some piercing griefs, and then spread those around and just spread everything everywhere, and it's just great. You just vomit on the board with killer, and it's awesome. Really fun. Next up, we've got Acrid Scorpion. I have no idea if it's correct to be playing this, to be honest, but Rakano Surge is extremely annoying, and Decay is a good way of combating that. This has a nice, healthy 3-5 life total, or toughness, meaning that it survives the Jek test, which is cool. Previously, Wasteland Broker used to survive the Jek test, but no longer, so I kind of just wanted a 4-drop that's just big and beefy and comes down and doesn't die immediately. It's also easy to cast, and it's not too hard to turn on its other abilities, and Decay and Lifestyle is kind of cool. Potentially, this could be cut pretty easily, but you know what? I have it in, and I like it, so I like my Scorpion. Wasteland Broker, a lot of good options here. Sometimes we use Transpose to put like Soul's Rest or Channel in the market if we don't have access to these early, and or not like early on. We're not going to be able to cast these, so we just send them to the market, grab our Worldpyre. But then later on, we can broker them back into the deck, or we can broker 8 of the Horu. And there's not a lot of decks that can beat you just chaining 8 of the Horu. You're gaining 4 armor, stunning their whole board, just making 2 owls to just beat them down with. You can use Soul's Rest to take extra turns. That's kind of the idea of what we're doing here is, you just hit this point where you become an unstoppable machine and end up beating them down with Angry Birds, or with your Severin or something. Just continuing on, we have other options too. Against Argenport mid-range or any sort of relic deck, brokering Burglarize is a good way to annoy them heavily and just win the game. There's not a lot they can do about that. I've brokered my fair share of backbreakers, and let's just say that's a backbreaking play. I probably made that joke way too many times, but you know what? I'm making it again because it's funny. Cerseis Choice. Originally added this to the deck when there was a lot of Skycrag go wide. This would be the first card I'd look at to cut from the market if you're not seeing a lot of mirror matches or really really grindy matches where you want a lot of Aegis and health, or matches where, go wide is important to stop. But in those grindy matches, being able to just continually give yourself Aegis and gain 6 life can be what it takes to win the game. And I put it to very good use, and I enjoyed this card. Sometimes Malediction would be better, but Cerseis Choice is actually just easier to cast, and yeah, it was fine. Feeding time, sometimes we just want a random removal spell, and it's okay to just put 4 of these on top of your deck with Broker, like that's cool. Just like putting 4 Aegis or 4, 6 health bursts is fine as well. But the main thing we're doing here is putting 8 of the Horu on top, or any of these if we've put them in our market with transpose. Next up, we've got Helio. It's really easy to get influence these days, and often this is just like a 5 power draw 2 or a 5 power draw 3, but that's exactly what we want. Just really good raw card advantage, flies, so we can spread flying around with Grodov's Burden. But the main thing here, just that's that big fat meaty draw. Between this and all of our cylixes and just petitions and all our plunder, we have a really good chance of just have a high velocity to just churn through our deck and get to where we're going, to where we can basically do whatever we want to close out the game. We might have more win cons than we need, and I actually make a deck later on, you'll see this next week probably, with less win cons, just a big pile of removal to beat Rakano, and that can be good too. But this is also just as much fun, and I think I had more fun playing this, because we just won our games faster, and just Severin just really does a good job of closing out the game. Speaking of Severin, we can use Worldpyre to put Severin into play and then just play power. So Severin can actually come down earlier than he usually would here. And since we're playing Grodov's Burden, we're just going to pass around the charge, lifesteal, and revenge like crazy. And an unchecked Severin with a Grodov's Burden on the board is pretty much what it takes. Pretty much wins the game. It's pretty crazy, and if you continue to just keep firing off surges with Severin in play, it's going to be really hard to lose that game. You're going to have to try really hard to lose the game from that position, let's just put it that way. And it's a pretty cool card. Just Severin, if you ever just need a card that just says, alright, I'm just going to gain an absolute crap load of life and pass revenge around, Severin's the card. He'll close out games, he'll gain you life, he'll hurt your opponent, pass revenge around, just good. Grodov's Burden, already talked about this. I affectionately like to say click the button whenever I pay 5 to draw a card, and oftentimes that's, it attributes to our deck velocity, like I was saying. We're just, we've got some really good hits too. You might see them in these games, but I just know over the course of me playing with this deck, I've ripped Severins, I've ripped Helios, I've ripped some pretty good top decks with Grodov's Burden where it just wins me the game out of nowhere. And it's really cool to have that option where just like, our expected value is draw, just some random card from our deck, but sometimes it's just put Severin in play and win the game. And that's pretty fun when it happens. Makes for some high variance games, but just being able to draw cards when you've got nothing else going on is pretty cool. Having access to that unconditional removal is nice as well. You can combo this off with Worldpyre activation to get it out for 1 cheaper and bury the past 1 cheaper, or just put Grodov's Burden in play. Oftentimes what you'll see me do is just slam Grodov's Burden into play, and then next turn play Severin and put a symbol into play, and boom, revenge. And then like, even if they kill my Severin, he'll come back later and do more, so it's pretty cool. 3 Suffocate, because, well, there's a lot of aggro out there, and just having 1 power kill the thing is pretty cool. Already talked about transpose, just lets us hit our market. Annihilate, also just a kind of a necessary evil. You might see in the version I played today less spot removal and more of other cards. Might see some different changes. I just wanted to do the deck tech of the latest version of this deck. You might see some older options, but as I play these decks, I'm always striving to come to a more optimal list. So at the start of the video, the deck might change and be fluid and evolve as the meta does. And this is where I ended up at. So I just wanted to do the deck tech on the better version of the deck rather than, whatever I started with. Just, in case anyone's looking to build this, at least they can pick up where I left off. Petition, this card's insane. We can use it to grab symbols just to make sure our cylixes come into play. Use it to grab cylixes. Use it to grab Cobalt Waystone to give us Aegis. It's just a pretty solid card, and I'm happy to run it. Some people will play Beseech the Throne, but like I was saying before, actual double influence draws with our power is pretty huge, and being able to just guarantee we have whatever Keller we're missing or lacking is pretty solid here. For Turn to Seed, this card just wrecks people and they get mad. You know, that's fine. It's a strong card. We're playing Primal. We're gonna play it. It ends games. If you can Turn to Seed something. Plus, if you ever get into a mirror match or something along the like where they're playing a lot of Aegis, you can actually use Turn to Seed on something you don't even care about, just to pop their Aegis and then do something else, which that's something to keep in mind. We have ways of just blasting the board after, or we can like pass Killer around to get rid of it, or the seeds. We've got Cerseis Choice to get rid of the seeds. You can also just stun the seeds, or Solar Blast the seeds, or bounce the seeds back to their hands. So there's ways to deal with the seeds. One of the mistakes that people can fall into when they play a Turn to Seed deck is they just have no out to the seeds and just like not enough of a proactive clock. So they just like play Turn to Seed and then just like die to the seeds. They like upgrade all their minions but just die to them later. Solar Blast, often just playing this as a fast spell, and often just playing it off of Worldpyre. If you're interested, you could try out replacing this with Shenra Speaks, since we're just casting this with Worldpyre most of the time anyway, but it was kind of cool to be able to cast this as a fast spell. I certainly used it to just randomly win games way faster than I would have, because maybe I'll have like a massive Severin Sterling in play, and I'll just Solar Blast and just like clear the whole board of blockers and just win the game on the spot, which is, you know, it's a cool thing. If sites become more popular, Solar Blast, just really handy way to just get a clean sweep of the board. Pop the sites, pop all the minions, and do it at fast speed, or do it on your turn for 4 power. So it's pretty cool. Wrath of Kaifus, also fantastic against Aegis, because you'll pop their Aegis and then draw a new 7, and they won't draw 7. They'll keep whatever's in their hand, but it's pretty good in those Aegis wars, or if your hand's kind of starting to lack. Just make sure you don't do this and then the Arcano player just kills you. Because I've done that a few times, and I found most of the time that to be incorrect. Just, you know, against more aggressive players that have no cards in their hand, just try and swap this into your deck, and try and rip cylixes with it, or build bigger Helios. Because it's not always good, we're only playing 2. Well, it's always at least fine, but it doesn't create a body like some of the Plunder cards, so we're playing 2. And I'm happy with that. You can do some really cheeky things with Soul's Rest, where you Soul's Rest and bounce the board back to everyone's hands, and then use Wrath of Kaifus to shuffle them away. That's really funny when you do that, because you get the extra turn, so you have time to do it. And that's something to keep in mind. You could play more of these and get that synergy, but not really necessary. And since we're early on just swapping this most of the time, you'll draw this later, and you're more likely to hit the combo even with only 2. Just because of how much card draw we have. Channel the Tempest, I kind of wanted a big card drawy spell on the main deck. This also can be a really solid win con too, just with all the other chip damage we can get out of some other stuff, and just, you know, sometimes this is just a hard removal spell that draws you 3 cards, and that's cool too. I've talked long enough about this deck. It's super fun to play. I hope you guys enjoy the games. I'll try and leave a link down in the description to the gameplay with this deck, and I hope you enjoy. If you'd like to see any deck or card or synergy in particular, whatever format, just don't say draft, I will endeavor to do that. So leave that down in the comments. I'd be happy to provide that brewing pain for you and show you what I would do with it, and maybe that helps. So if there's anything you'd like to see, or if you just want me to play some garbage card just to see me do it, I'll do it. I don't even mind. And just link that down in the comments and I'll get on it. If you could leave a like and a subscribe, it helps me a ton with the YouTube algorithm and makes everyone else see my videos. I also stream live on Twitch. I've been talking too much. Thank you for watching.